My name is Scott Panchik. I took 11th at the CrossFit Games this year. The workouts this year were definitely things that you see outside of the gym. And it's a challenge for us as athletes because we're trying to find a balance between being prepared for the open and regionals, which are exercises that you see in the gyms. And that's what gets us to the CrossFit Games, while still working on weaknesses like the paddleboard or running and biking and some things that you traditionally don't maybe do every day or every week of the year. So it's finding that happy balance, and this year I think more than any other year we saw a lot of those things kind of show up in different ways. I think the events, they're constantly varying and changing, and I think that they do look at the athletes that they have at the CrossFit Games and are looking to showcase their abilities. And I think sometimes we come in and that test can change every year, and it's a guessing game really for us as we program for ourselves, or our coaches are programming for us on what we're going to be tested on. And that's what's unique about our sport, is we don't know what we're being tested on, and we have to be prepared to do everything. So every year I come back from the CrossFit Games, and it's you look at the leaderboard and you look at your regional and open performances, and it's what do I need to do this upcoming year to be better, and how can I address these weaknesses and the things that got exposed. And everyone I think this year had something that they were faced with that was a challenge for them. The hardest event for me was the biking event, the very first one we did, the crit. The crit was tough for me because I really struggled to know when to shift gears, and I just need to be better at dealing with that burning sensation in my legs and being okay with that. And something that I just don't do very often is getting outside on a road bike and pedaling fast. I've done a lot of long bikes throughout the year, but to get on a flat surface where I'm not worried about getting hit by a car and biking fast and knowing when to shift gears, that was a challenge for me. It definitely crosses your mind that someone could potentially crash into you, or you could crash coming around a turn too fast. So maybe coming around some of the corners, I was braking a little more than I should, but it's the first event of the games, and the last thing you want to do is come around a corner and flip your bike and get hurt and not be able to finish the games. So yes, maybe I was a little cautious, but I think that it was just me being unprepared for the event, and I need to be better. My favorite event was, I like the CrossFit Total and the clean and jerk ladder. Those were probably my two favorite. I've always loved a heavy barbell, and anytime I can get that on the floor at the CrossFit Games, that's an opportunity for me to get some points. Nick Anchor was in my heat, and I knew he was a very strong competitor, and I was kind of keeping an eye on what weights he was hitting on his back squat, but I didn't know what he was going to pull at the end on his deadlift, so I knew I needed to hit something big on my back squat. That was my lifetime PR, 500 pounds, yeah. So that was exciting to be able to hit that after everything we had done in the morning with the biking. So it was a good way to kind of bounce back from a bad event in the morning.
It's a good place to hit a PR.
Absolutely. Well, it's funny because I put 495 on, I looked at my judge and I was like, no one wants to see 495. I was like, let's put 500 on. And he kind of laughed and just like shook his head like, yeah, you should do that. I was incredible being able to train with my brother Saxon throughout the year, him and Spencer, but having Saxon during the process from training with him between regionals and the games was really just special, and it was pushed me to new limits because in previous years they would kind of pick and choose the workouts they wanted to do, and this year he did every one of them. He's like, this is hard. But knowing someone was feeling the same way I was in the morning when we got up, and he pushed me more than he probably knows. And then being out here at the CrossFit Games was incredible. We feed off one another, and we're able to talk to each other throughout the events and really kind of coach each other up, and it's a little bit of a competitive advantage, I think, having someone that maybe is just out on the floor and can come off and give you some quick insight on what the workout felt like. So that was really cool. That's always been the goal, is to get all three of us to the CrossFit Games and be able to share that moment. That's the goal. We want to be the first family to bring all three. So I think that hopefully this upcoming year we'll be able to take some of the things that we learned from the CrossFit Games this year and make that push. I think if I could go back and change some things in my training, I would have spent a little more time on the bike. Those were my worst two events, the crit and then the assault bike later in the weekend. And again, it was just getting comfortable on there and doing it more, I think. But the competitors were incredible this year, and each and every event, anyone could win. And I think this is probably one of the first years where, aside from Matt Frazier winning, I think 2 events, there was a different winner for each event. So it just showcases how incredible these athletes really are at the CrossFit Games.